Hello everyone and welcome to today's morning report. Chart appraisals on Wednesday the 28th of September with me, Richard Perry, market analyst at Handset Markets. We've got a risk positive open to European trading. Again, we've turned around. Although you would argue that we were risk positive yesterday, the European markets actually fell throughout the day, but we've rebounded today and we've got a nice strong move to the upside. You're seeing strong gains across the board, percent higher on FTSE 100. CAC and DAX over 1% higher, so we're seeing some really strong moves, and the markets are taking sort of heart from the markets are taking heart from the move that we've seen on the dollar, actually, in the wake of the presidential election debate. The positivity that's generally surrounded the performance from Hillary Clinton. The dollar's strengthened, but general risk appetite has pulled higher. You've got the likes of gold and the yen, which are weaker, and also treasury yields, which are interestingly coming under a bit of sort of an asymmetric performance. We've got the 2-year, which is not massively down. Let me just show you, actually. You've got... That's the performance of the dollar, which has picked up since the debate. But the 2-year is sort of fell slightly, but rebounded a bit yesterday on the improved risk appetite. But the 10-year is interestingly was lower yesterday, and that came on the back of comments from Stanley Fischer, the Vice Fed chair, who basically suggested that interest rates shouldn't go strongly higher. So the markets took that as a suggestion that perhaps, I suppose, the terminal rate on the interest rate hikes for the Fed are not going to be as high as it could have been, and subsequently the 10-year yield sort of fell on the back of that. But improved risk today has pulled it higher again. Now we're seeing very choppy moves on oil, really, really uncertain moves through on almost a daily basis now. We had yesterday the comments from the Iranian oil minister, which suggested that there was no real prospect of a production freeze from Iran. They were still going to be moving towards 4 million barrels of oil a day. We're currently around about 3.6 million. But again, today we're still waiting for sort of any sort of suggestions out of the International Energy Forum conference in Algeria that would sort of allude to any sort of production freeze agreement, and perhaps the markets are taking a little bit of heart from the suggestion that, again, Saudi Arabia may be willing to sort of make some sort of future agreement with Iran. But again, it's sort of is really uncertain as to exactly what we're going to get out of this, and markets have still sort of got base case scenario for no agreement. So oil prices sort of still fluctuating around, but nothing yet concrete. As I said, we've got the dollar, which is pulling higher. So let me just show you a few interesting charts, because on Forex Majors we're starting to see, actually, let me just show you a little suggestion that the sterling may be starting to turn a corner. Let me just show you a few charts very quickly whilst I'm here. Sterling yen is that starting to turn around? Let me actually show you on the hourly chart. You can see that a little bit more, a little bit better. Sterling yen breaking that downtrend. Sterling Aussie starting to sort of, that downtrend starting to wane. But the interesting one, I think, is euro sterling. Euro sterling, which is now broken this uptrend channel. So are we starting to see a little bit of a turnaround in sterling? Something to possibly keep an eye on. But in terms of what we've got to look forward to today on the markets, we're still looking out for a little bit of US data. We had some positive data out yesterday from the consumer confidence and also the flash services PMI. We've got the durable goods today, expected to be down actually by 0.4% on the month, so nothing too positive to come out of that data would be expected there. But also we've got the weekly crude oil stocks, 3 million barrels of build is the expectation. Now recent weeks have all had quite significant, well, apart from 2 weeks ago, but a couple of significant oil inventory drawdowns, which has helped to support the oil price. So that'll be what the market will be looking out for today. Will that be another surprise drawdown? Gasoline stocks expected to come slightly higher, but also weekly distillates are expected slightly lower, as in a drawdown of 1 million barrels. So markets are looking at all three of those levels at the moment, and the extent to which the surprise comes through on any one of those could drive the oil price. So watch out for all three of those, I would, today. Now, going back to my chart of the day, which is the DAX. Now, I sort of wrote the DAX this morning. Let me just change these charts. Wrote my morning report analysis on the fact that we saw the DAX, which was really starting to pull lower. 3 down days in a row, strong down days as well. But you did have this interesting bounce off this support. 10,262 was the low on the 16th of September. 10,265. So basically, pretty much bang on that support and bounced yesterday. But look at these momentum indicators. They are very much sort of either corrective or neutrally configured. Now, you'd say that between sort of 40 and 60 on the RSI is a very sort of choppy, medium-term, sort of rangy phase. Uncertainty pretty much across the board, and that's reflected in the MACD lines, but the stochastics falling away is a concern. And the fact that we closed below that support yesterday seemed to be sort of pointing towards further downside pressure, but the intraday sort of rebound off that low has just been accelerated today, hasn't it? And we're even back above this 10,442 pivot line. Now, this has been a pivot consistently over the last sort of month or so on the DAX. Again, bounced into that pivot yesterday and sold off. So I was expecting that to be a basis of resistance, but the market just burst straight through there today. So this sort of volatility that we're getting in equities is really continuing. You're sort of continuing to see this sideways range on equity markets, and I could get you a chart of the FTSE up, I could get you a chart of the S&P 500 up. All of these markets are very much sort of sideways ranging markets on the medium term basis across the sort of month, 2 month basis. But the near term sort of outlook is so choppy, it's so volatile, and we're seeing just sort of daily moves, big swings in these markets, and no real sort of suggestion that you're getting a proper trend. So you're back into the sort of midst of this range now on the DAX, and it'll be interesting to see if it continues higher back towards that 10,705 level of resistance, which was sort of the level of resistance at the back end of last week before the turn lower. Now, you've got resistance in place at 10,560, which was yesterday's traded high. Oh, sorry, Tuesday's traded high. Monday's traded high. And then Friday's close, which was 10,626. So 10,610 was Friday's low. So you'd say that there's a gap now that is still open. So arguably you could say that gap could be filled. But you do tend to get lots of gaps on the DAX that quite often don't get filled. So the DAX is quite a gapping market, and often you don't really tend to see those gaps get filled or closed, and in conventional gap analysis would say that gaps should be filled, but the DAX does tend to sort of not really move around with conventional gap analysis. But anyway, that's another thing. But you'd certainly argue that yesterday's or Monday's traded high 10,560 is your initial resistance now, so you're only sort of 50 ticks away from that, and you've had an improvement in the outlook. Look at those MACD lines crossing higher, stochastics running higher as well. So it is near term, you'd argue, positive again, but it's so choppy, so volatile that you wouldn't really want to make too many bold claims about direction on the DAX. So you'd say that the resistance at 10,705 means now that there's sort of a 100 tick band of resistance at the top of this range. 10,705 up towards 10,8. And I think you'd say that I think this medium-term range is going to continue. So any rally towards the top of that resistance, I think, is a chance to sell. But for now, the near-term outlook is positive again. but how long will that last? So I wish you good luck in your trading on the DAX. It's rather unpredictable, but I wish you good luck anyway. So I wish you, and I'll speak to you later. Thank you.